Hey, I'm Miro Joe, and I want to show you some rules that apply to structural perspective. And I don't want you to be scared when I say rules, because I want you to think of rules as something that will give you control over your work, not something you have to do. A rule like, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. See, that's a rule that you can use because it gives you the ability to predict and to plan. So let me show you some rules that apply to structural perspective. So in my video, Landscape Perspective, we learned the rule of halves and doubles. And that is that if I have a plane, let's say this is a sidewalk, and this is the horizon, if I cut the distance in half to the horizon from any point on this plane, so let's say from this point or from this point, we cut it in half, then the distance is now double here what it was down here at this point. And that also means that if I have an object, it's going to be half the size when it gets up to this point. So then that means it's going to be half of the height and half of the width. And you can see that this box is the size of one of these quarters, which is half of the width and half of the height of this big box. So that means that this is the same object as this object at double the distance. Now, while that rule of halves and doubles is true for the height and the width of the object, it is not true for the depth of the object, such as what we would see on the edges of buildings. So we have a different rule to learn. Okay, now I drew this vertical line parallel to this corner, identifying a segment of this building. I want this building to have this symmetrical face here. I want to make it the same on both sides. So on this, I want to make the same segment that I did here, but it's got to be smaller to make the perspective right. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to remember that this shrinks to this only slightly faster than this shrinks to this. So I can use this rate of decrease to approximate this rate of decrease. If this shrinks by a certain percentage, shrink this way just a little bit more. So to put this in simple layman's terms, the longer the wall is, the closer it is to shrinking at the same rate as its height. But the shorter the wall is, the closer it will be to shrinking at 1.5 times the rate that the height shrinks. And then maybe I can make some columns coming down on this awning. So let's set those just inside of that. And then maybe those are set in some concrete blocks. So I'll make top of a square right here. You can see that I made this line parallel to this line. I made this line vanishing to the same point as this line, this one vanishing to the same point as this line, this one vanishing to the same point as this line. Always following those guidelines. But we don't want to make it on the sidewalk because I think that would be against building code. All parallel lines have a vanishing point at both ends. So while there's a vanishing point to these parallel lines, behind me, they have a different vanishing point. Okay, so I'm going to call my painting finished now. My learning process has always been this, that I paint a picture as good as I know how, and I don't worry about all of the things that I don't know how to do yet. I find one thing that I can improve. Hopefully, I can help you with your learning process and give you information that you can use to identify how to improve that one thing that you're working on. So don't get overwhelmed. And approximating is fantastic. I do it all the time. So enjoy your painting, and we'll see you on the next video.